In a time where you can get a refund for any game on the Steam store that you have owned for less than 2 weeks and had under 2 hours playtime, I ask the questions, is a game worth 2 hours of your time, and should you permanently own it? Welcome to the refund test. What is currently happening YouTube? Facepalm here, your friend in Oz and NZ, bringing you reviews, tutorials and game clips, minus the You can follow me on Twitter at Facepalm with a 1, not an L. As for here on YouTube, if you like what you find, then like, comment and subscribe. Don't forget to bring your game face. Let's get it done. Today we look at the award-winning Thumper in VR. By its own description, Thumper is rhythm violence, classic rhythm action, blistering speed, and brutal physicality. You are a space beetle, brave the hellish void, and confront a maniacal giant head from the future. It has overwhelmingly positive reviews on the Steam store by a respectable amount of people, and will set you back $19.99 US. It's a single-player game, has support for the Rift, Vive, and OS VR HMDs. It supports motion controllers, including touch, keyboard and mouse, and a gamepad like the Xbox One controller. It is listed as a seated experience, but I'll be trying it standing up to find out if it makes it any better. The reviews from Paste, GameSpot, and IGN range from 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10, and it seems like the community is very much in agreement judging by the comments. So on checking, the game has a very mild hard drive footprint, coming in at under 1.5 gig, which is nice in this day and age of 60 gig installs. And once it's loaded up, you can start an Oculus VR mode if you have a Rift. Once you start the game, you will get an option to set the output size of the image that is mirrored to your PC's monitor, i.e. 1920 by 1080, or whatever resolution you like. I think this is an often overlooked but important feature for the future of VR, as content creators have something decent to show off and promote, which in turn will help contribute to sales. The image that is output also seems to encompass a lot of the view that you have in-game, instead of just a shitty little segment of that screen cropped out. You'll also have options to change the volume, as well as a faster Play Plus option, and the choice to up the anti-aliasing if your card can handle it. I have a GTX 1070 and had everything easily cranked up to the max, and I've also seen people with 970s comment that they could do the same. You can also reset your view by using the button on the left touch controller once you have settled into the spot you'll be playing from, though in-game this will adjust automatically if you stray too far from your original position. You must follow the timed controller button cues, which are denoted by various obstacles on the track heading towards you at breakneck speed, similar to what you would expect in Rock Band, with much more high-strength mind-altering substances. I did find that I was much more accurate when following the visual cues than the audio cues, despite this being billed as a rhythm-based game, which I chalked up to the musical timings getting pretty crazy and my musical capabilities not being able to keep up with those timings. Just be aware here that it is your thumbs doing all the work, and they will get sore over long playtimes. I did find that the button sequences required weren't always obvious though. For instance, in one part of the game you are shown how to thump down after a set of spikes onto one of the track light beacons. Then in a later part of the game, you are required to use the same sequence to break gates and defeat a gate boss, though this time instead of spikes you have to jump, then thump down after an arch that goes over the track. I didn't realize that the arches needed to be jumped over at all, as nothing suggested this previously, and I was in part frustrated as there are such few requirements at this stage of the game. I would have expected a heads up on that one if I didn't accidentally miss it, though the additional challenge was actually quite satisfying once I figured it out, as I felt like I'd just solved the puzzle that had me stuck, which is always a nice feeling. The timing of when you needed to hit the buttons was actually quite forgiving, which kept up the pace of the game, but it did make me doubt at times that I was actually pressing the correct buttons, as I wasn't being punished enough for missing a cue in a part that had a lot of fast commands required in sequence. This did lead to a little confusion and uncertainty along the way, but I definitely became more confident with the controls as I went along, and once they became second nature, this in turn allowed me to focus more on the game itself instead of the buttons at my thumb tips. I did notice that the pace at which I seemed to master the controls seemed to be in line with the increasing difficulty of the game, which to me is a mark of skill from any game developer. Very nice. In saying that, when I was getting the visual cues correct, I found I could hear, feel and enjoy the music much better. It's difficult to explain, but that's what it was. The game itself has 9 levels, and each of the levels is made up of smaller sub-levels, numbered in a similar fashion to the way Super Mario levels are numbered. Only in Thumper, each level number represents the time signature of the music played in the background. And to accomplish all of this, you get 2 chances to crash by missing a cue on each level. The first crash will destroy your shield, and the second crash will end your life as a track-gliding silver-winged psychedelic space beetle. And when you die, you will go back to the start of that sub-level. You do, however, get a chance to get back those shields if you hit the cues at the right times on each level. I did notice that the amount of skill required to pass a level seemed to ramp up once you hit level 3. So I felt like in the first 2 hours of play, I got a decent feel for what the game had to offer. And one thing that was very clear was that my focus was required at all times in order to progress through the game at a decent pace. And during this progression, I actually didn't want to die in game, as I had a sense of concern for my beetle. Each of the levels is also guarded by 2 bosses you must defeat, one being a regular gate boss and the other being a final boss. And these bosses are extremely satisfying to beat after you've passed 20 plus sub-levels and have made it through the gates to face off with the final boss of each level. At the end of each level, you are ranked using a scoring system from A and below, A being good, with an S rank for outstanding achievement. As far as sickness is concerned, I would have thought that a game of this pace would throw me around a bit, even with my VR legs, but I didn't notice any sickness at all, and that seems to line up with what people are saying online also. I put this down to the track immediately in front of you being fixed in the center, and you turn with the track instead of strafing sideways. Standing up didn't make any difference, nor did it add anything to the experience at all, and I would recommend going with the advised seated experience. All in all, much more comfortable than I thought it would be. The graphics are gorgeous and fit the premise of the game well. Saturated, crisp, clear, smooth, colorful, and psychedelic are a few terms that spring to mind here. Basically, what you see in the images is what you get. I also noticed that the track directly beside me was as clear as things in the distance, which was also very nice to see. The music is cool in both its musical complexity and its effectiveness in creating an, at times, intense sense of urgency and care at the same time. Though I did find it a bit samey over the 2 hours. I can't really talk though, as I listen to dance music as well as traditional bands, and so calling something samey in a negative light just because of its repetitiveness is a bit cheeky. I guess I would say I was impressed by the sound design and the composition, and it added greatly to the game itself. But I wouldn't buy the soundtrack, though it is actually available to buy on the Steam store. As far as the story goes, there is no story specifically. The concept is unique, and you're a freaking space beetle traveling at speed to destroy enemies whose scale is nothing short of colossal. Deal with it, it's enough. And the replayability of this game is sky high in my opinion. It's just one of those games that you are only going to get sick of it if you actually get sick of this type of game and style of visuals. Value-wise, for $20 in comparison to similarly priced official VR titles, this has got to be a 9 out of 10, if not a 10 out of 10 at least. It far exceeds a lot of things I've seen on both Oculus Home and on Steam for around the $20 mark. You will 100% get your money's worth if this is your bag. In summary, this game is focused, refined, and very unique in its concept. The adrenalizing boss battles will impress you by both their scale and their ferocity. The game will apparently last around 6 to 9 hours to beat, depending on skill level, and has a massive amount of replayability, which gives it a huge amount of value. Though in saying all of that, for me personally, I felt like I got enough out of the 2 hours gameplay for now. And with all the VR content out there right now, including official titles, VR mods, and free indie experiences, at this time, I really don't have enough time to sink into it in comparison to my other options. And I feel my money would be better spent elsewhere for the time being. Bear in mind here, I prefer first-person shooters, RPGs, and story-orientated games, and I don't like wave-based shooters. And while this isn't specifically a wave-based shooter, it is kind of wave-based. I absolutely love the 2 hours I spent in this game, but for me right now, if I were to keep or cash it, the outcome for me is cash. With a likelihood of rebuying in the future, high. Do I think it's worth your time? Yes, 100% give it a trial. I'd say way more people are going to keep this gem than will return it for a refund, and I'll likely fall into that bucket in the near future also. Feel free to discuss in the comments below if you think that I should have kept it or refunded it, should I have played it more, or would you recommend it to a friend? In the meantime, if you like this video, then crush that like button, ask any questions in the comments below, subscribe if you wanna, and and I'll see you in the next one. Peace! Thanks for watching today's video. Just remember you can follow me on Twitter at Facepalm with a 1, not an L. As for here on YouTube, if you like what you find, then like, comment and subscribe. But don't forget to bring your game face. Facepalm out.